The only real God is the one that you believe in. Start looking for the God in others. And if you find you're tuning into a wave, well then I don't know much about the NC.
Hello, everybody.
Hello, friends.
Welcome into another episode of Spiritual Philosophy Chatter with the Joneses. I'm Danny Jones.
And I am Samantha Jones.
And this is episode 60.
60.
What is the topic?
This is liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Yes.
Because it's
thank you.
needed. And it's a good topic.
You're the one that came up with this idea, so thank you, sir.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. Well, before we hop into that, anything from last week?
You know what we forgot to talk about last week?
What?
Was that we were on the podcast charts for the first time.
I was going to remind you today, and I forgot. Thank you.
It was seriously like right after we were done, I was like, oh, I forgot. So you all know, last week there's top 200 chart, kind of like the Billboard top 100. It's like that, but it's for podcasts, and they only do the top 200 in each category. We've never been on the U.S. Or the global top 200 before, and last week we were on both for the first time.
Yeah.
We were 147 in the country,
Yep.
right? And then globally we were 169.
Yep.
And
Awesome.
That was
Congratulations.
Congratulations. That was a wonderful surprise.
Yeah. And thank you
Yeah.
to people, that are listening.
Yes, thank you so much. We're so glad that we've been able to do this show and touch everybody the way it has, and we're just very blessed.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
That was a great news.
Yes, for sure. So thank you for everybody. And something that I wanted to ask of our listeners is, one of the things I've noticed in the statistics of the numbers and the episodes that people watch is that our Dolores Cannon episode has the most listens to of all the episodes.
Yeah.
And it keeps going up. Every week it goes up and up.
That's awesome.
So I feel like people are really, really interested in this topic of Dolores Cannon.
Yeah.
So I really like it if some people that are interested in that topic, if you would email us and tell us if there's anything specifically, or if there's a book you want to talk about, because this woman has so much. Like, we could talk
Right.
about so much about her. So I'd like to know if there's certain things.
Cool.
Like, for me, I really want to talk
Good
about
idea.
Nostradamus and her readings with Nostradamus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very, very intriguing.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
So we'll definitely do that. But email us, spiritualjoneses@gmail.com.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's a great idea.
I thought so.
I wanted to say real quick thank you to your mom also, because this was all her idea.
Yes, it was. Thank you, Mom.
So she was right.
She's always right. Yeah, always.
Cool.
Yeah, thanks, Mom.
So anything else from
That's it.
last week
That's
at
all I
all?
got.
All right.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, let's hop into this week's episode 60.
Okay.
Liberty and justice for all. What does that mean?
So this has been a rough week.
Yeah.
It's been a really rough week, and we really felt like we can't talk about anything else. This is what we need to talk about.
Yeah, we have to talk about it.
So I'll apologize ahead of time if I start crying, because I can already feel it, and I'm not going to hold it back. I can't. So this has just been, it's been so hard for everybody, and we just need to we need to talk about it.
I agree.
Yeah. So for history's sake, what exactly are we talking about? So on May 25th, 2020, in Minneapolis, Minnesota, a 46-year-old African-American man named George Floyd died after Derek Chauvin, a white police officer, knelt on Floyd's neck for almost 9 minutes while Floyd was handcuffed face down on the street. There were 4 officers total involved. They're all in jail. And Derek is being charged with, I kind of cleared this up for myself. He's being charged with 2nd degree, 3rd degree, and 2nd degree manslaughter, because they're afraid that they might not get him on the 2nd degree murder. Because of the legalities of it and how they, we
Right.
don't want there to be any possible way for this man to get off for what he did.
No.
So they're trying to add as many charges as they can.
That's good.
Yeah. So then, there it went.
Yeah.
That was the beginning of the largest civil rights movement we've seen ever, I think.
Yeah.
Ever.
It's impressive.
I remember saying many times that I felt like there was more energy building and building. I didn't see this. This makes sense, though, because I feel like what is happening is there's like a spiritual awakening happening in the world. Yeah. And in order for things to progress the way they're supposed to, we all have to start coming together more.
Right.
And this has brought us together in a weird way. It's turned us against 4 men, really. I mean, it's turned us against a lot of people.
Right.
But if you look at it, the entire country hates these 4 people so much right now that it has brought us together in a very weird way.
Yeah.
There still always will be those people that don't agree.
Yeah, I mean, when I'm looking at this whole movement and the protesters and the police, to me, like the looting situation is a whole separate thing.
It is.
That's being thrown in there to just cause problems.
Right.
Unfortunately, there are people that want unrest.
Yes.
But like you said, it's starting to happen.
Yeah.
The change.
It is.
And it's been needed for, I don't know, what did Reverend Al Sharpton say? Like 400 something years?
Yeah. That was a great sermon that he did for anybody that watched it at George Floyd's service. Oh my gosh. Like I was crying because, he was very, it was very religious. He was very God this, God that, but I can relate to it no matter what words you use, whether you use God, universe, source, whatever you use. I relate to it exactly like he said it. And I totally agree with him. He was saying that he was crying for his mom when he was down there before he passed. I don't know exactly what he said. I did not watch the video.
Right.
So I don't know. But something like calling for his mom, and Al Sharpton said it's because he saw her. He was reaching out for her. She was reaching out for him. And it's true. Yeah. It was very powerful.
Yeah. Because she was passed. She's passed.
She's passed. Yeah.
Yes.
She is passed. So that was... I don't know. That to me, that brings a little bit of peace to the situation.
Right.
I can't watch the video. Being an empath, it doesn't matter who you are, what you've done. If I see something like that happening to somebody, I can't. I just cannot handle it.
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple things for me about it that were sort of just gut-wrenching, and was not only the fact did he put his knee on his neck for 8 minutes and something seconds. Yeah. But body language and energy.
Yes.
You, as a human, and all of us can pick up on each other's energy and body language. And it didn't look good for him.
No,
be
it
honest.
Didn't. You can see the difference in his picture, like the video, because I did watch the first little bit up until George started saying that he couldn't breathe and stuff. So I have seen the basics of it, and you can see the anger in his face. You can see, and then you see the difference in his mugshot where he's back down,
humbled.
Right, exactly. Thank you. His adrenaline was flowing, and you can see that. You can see the anger, but this man also had a lot of complaints against him.
Oh yeah,
a lot. I can't remember. I think it was something like 18.
Yeah.
Only 2 that he received disciplinary action for.
Huh.
So, I'll be honest, like, as a white woman, it's not something that I think about. And when I think about it, I mean, before this, like, racism and that kind of thing, it's not something I really think about because I don't know what it's like to be them. And I don't look at any color any differently than I do me. We're the same. Your skin's a little bit different, but we're the same. We all came from the same place originally. Yep. And that is for most of us is Africa.
Yeah.
In my DNA going all the way back. I have some. And a lot of times you don't learn those things until you have your DNA done, and it kind of that humbles you too.
Right.
When I had mine done, I found out I was 25% Ashkenazi Jew.
Right.
I didn't even know that you could.
But you and I both had the 1%, or didn't you? The sub-Saharan African.
Exactly.
So that is, in essence, kind of the center of all the continents.
Yes.
And when the continents were all one continent, well, guess where the people were?
Right. it just shows you that, what are you discriminating against? You're discriminating against somebody that maybe, however long ago you were somewhat related to. We're all really related if you think about it.
Yeah, I kind of feel like, well, for some of these people, I would be willing to bet that there's a vast majority of people that have that opinion about others of ethnicity.
Yes.
I would be willing to bet that a lot of them don't even know why. It's just simply because that's the way they were raised for generations and generations and generations.
Yes.
That they're just taught that. And as children, we are like sponges.
Yes. We were just talking about this before we started recording, about our childhoods and about how we were raised very differently. But at the end of the day, we both feel pretty much the same way, and that is neither one of us have racial tendencies at all.
Right.
Like, you're more attracted to African American women and other ethnicities than maybe even white women. So, but our parents and their parents, like their parents, like our grandparents or our great grandparents, they were probably the most racist. And then I feel like each generation has kind of it's dwindled a little bit. My mother was, I'm not gonna sugarcoat it, but she had her racial tendencies. I think a lot of it was joking. It was supposed to be funny.
Right.
But her father was very racist.
Right.
He was in a concentration camp for a while. It really messed with his head. And he definitely passed down, those types of tendencies to her.
Right.
Which then I don't think she wanted to pass them on to me. I don't think she was trying to, which she did not. But I think that subconsciously she could have, for sure.
Oh, yeah.
That I didn't pick those things up. I saw that they were wrong. But I could have gone that way.
Right.
But with each generation, I feel like we're taking it out more.
Yeah.
We're losing a lot of it. And right now we're just seeing like our generation and the boomers are kind of like, when we all exit, I kind of feel like that will really settle down. Like when our kids are in school, they'll wonder what happened. Like, how could you treat people like this? They won't get it. They won't understand.
Right.
And that's wonderful to know, though.
That is really reassuring to see that generation is not buying that load.
Yeah.
And for myself, I honestly believe there's not one person to blame here.
No.
Okay. This is going, like I said, 400 years or something back.
Yeah.
That you can't pin this on one person.
No, you can't.
Okay. Unless we found the people that brought these Africans from their continent to our continent for slavery.
Right.
Maybe then we could blame those actual people, but how are we going to find those people?
Right.
And quite honestly, the whole idea, I don't know if you know, but like, I can't even remember the name of the act, but there was an act that Lincoln had presented to actually send them all back.
Yeah.
That they weren't going, once they were freed, they were not going to be here.
Right.
Forever.
Gotcha.
They were going to be sent back.
Yeah.
So, I'm not saying Lincoln was a racist. What he did was an amazing thing, but it was still like a shame of, here, we're going to use you for the time that we need you.
Right.
And then we're going to send you back to your continent if you're even alive.
Right.
So I myself grew up in pretty much inner cities. Mm-hmm. I was born and raised in Venice, and I spent the good majority of my youth there. So school for me was very ethnically mixed.
Yeah, very diverse.
We actually had bus loads of kids, predominantly black, maybe Hispanic too, that were bussed in from other areas like Fairfax and Crenshaw that their mothers felt was too unsafe for their child to go to school, So they came to our school.
So they bring them to yours, yeah.
Were they the problem makers? Not necessarily. We had black gangs, we had Mexican gangs, we had white gangs. Mm-hmm. So everybody is to blame in that sense. But I was surrounded by it all day, every day. And and it was not easy to concentrate. I did not do well in school in LA at all. Not that I did that much better when I came here, but when I came here, it was rather a culture shock for me.
Right.
Because I came to Thousand Oaks High School, and I believe there was maybe one black student at the high school when I arrived there in 1987.
We're not a lot in this area at all.
No, so it was like, wow, I'm so used to that, and seeing some of these white kids and, kind of hearing those things out of their mouths or that attitude was way different for me.
Right.
Because I had a little bit more respect. I did grow up with family and some of my family members, not a lot, but, I heard that word.
Yeah.
And I think for a short time as a really young kid, I might have thought that they were bad or different.
Right.
But living in the city taught me that it was not the case.
Right.
I ended up having, like you said, I had a black girlfriend. I had a black best friend. And I still have friends that are black. So I have no issue with the color of the skin. And yeah, as an attraction, I do find it attractive.
Yeah.
But I find you attractive too. I love you.
Right. That's why I said it's not.
But I have had Asian girlfriends. Yeah. I've had Hispanic girlfriends. I've had black girlfriends. And I've had white girlfriends.
Yeah.
So I have no issue with it whatsoever. When I look at this and I go, this isn't, I've heard a couple friends, thought they were friends, but I've actually heard people say that like this incident with George is a once in a blue moon thing. This is like stuff I see on Facebook because everybody's
ignorance.
Everybody's sharing their opinion.
Yeah. Oh yeah. They sure are.
Yeah, we all went to civil rights attorneys from pandemic specialists. So
yeah, overnight, wham.
But that comment, wow. And this was somebody.
What was the comment?
That this kind of incident with George Floyd is a once in a blue moon thing. Okay. Yeah. Well, it's not.
No, it's not at all.
It's not.
It was only a couple of weeks earlier that we heard about the guy in Georgia that was shot by the two white men.
Think about how many people come and go in this world and we hear about on the news and blah, blah, blah. And then life kind of goes on and you just sort of, not, the family and the loved ones don't forget, but society kind of, it gets displaced from our memory.
Right.
And further away. Well, let me tell you what, there's been so many incidences in our history that are so further away and so buried that most people don't even know about them.
Right. There's a few things that happen in situations like this that I want to point out. First of all, I think a lot of us saw this coming in a different way. I should have seen that this is what it was going to be, but I don't think anybody really wants to ever admit something like this is going to happen. But if you look, there was a buildup. There was a huge buildup. Oh, yeah. The numbers have been getting higher and higher, and we've been seeing so much more of this. We don't watch the news, and we were hearing about all of these. The guy in the park that was just bird watching with the white woman that was yelling at him for no reason. You can see how the energy builds and builds to the point that they're kind of trying to let us know. They're kind of trying to warn us. It's a way of teaching us, I think also what they're trying to do, and this is something I got intuitively while you were talking, is that a lot of the spirits that work with us are our parents and our grandparents and our great-grandparents. I feel like after that, they've kind of moved on. For the most part, I don't even really feel like great-grandparents, but let's just say that they're there. Okay. Those are the people that made the racism. Those are the people that started it. So who has to undo it? They do. Right. How did they undo it? By helping us, to help us see that this isn't how this is supposed to go. No. So they're working through light workers and other people on this planet where these, I'm not talking, like you said, I'm not talking about the looting. The looting is completely different. I can't justify that at all. No. Protests, absolutely justifiable. And a lot of these people that are on the front lines like that, they are light workers. Yes. They're a different kind of light worker than we are. We're on like the back lines. Like in the army, we're not fighting the front lines. We're fighting in the back, waiting to help. Yeah. Waiting to help the people that need to find something after all of this. But that's what's happening. Right. they're trying to help us change our world. Now, this is where we come in. Are we going to let it change our world? Are we going to do what's right and all be one as we should?
Right.
Or are we going to fight it?
Right.
Right now, the movement feels like we're all moving in the right direction, I think.
I do. And I believe that there's good and bad in every race, in every walk of life, in every profession. There just is. That's how this world works. But I think what the movement here is saying is not only do Black Lives Matter, because they do, but that peace matters.
Yes.
Peace.
Yes.
Okay? We're all made up of the same number of bones, same organs, same color of blood. We shed the same tears. We have the same hopes and dreams.
Yep.
It's just the color of our casing is different.
Absolutely.
Different.
It's not like people want to say African Americans cause more crime. No, that's not true. Show me those statistics.
Well, you
it's
could,
not true.
even if they
it
said,
depends on areas,
yeah, because it's an inner city, but
Yeah.
but if we are segregating, and essentially, it's not like full-on segregation like in the 50s and 60s, but it's like, it's an economic segregation.
Right.
So we make a lot of these opportunities less available to these races.
Right.
Therefore, they can only afford to live in a certain area that we, as a society or a government, declare as that area. Just like reservations. Let's look at the Native American Indians, okay? This goes even beyond Black lives and what we've done to them over, centuries. We did the same thing to Indians, American Indians.
Oh, yeah.
Native American Indians, and then put them on designated areas, reservations. And I don't know if you've ever been to one.
I have not myself, no.
But I went to one once when Contradiction was touring. We were in Nevada, and we went to one, and it was sad.
Yeah, I can imagine.
It was really sad. So, no, there should be ultimately, I hope we could get to a place in a consciousness on this planet that it is all lives matter, because there is no color.
Right.
It's just one species, one race, and that is human.
Right. There's a lot of things that, going back into our ancestors, they did wrong. And, they didn't know that they were doing these things wrong, but we're still cleaning up their mess. And this is one of those things. It didn't have to be this way. It wasn't like this before this,
Right.
that started. It wasn't.
Right.
Like the Egyptians, I don't think that they had prejudice like that. The Mayans, the different civilizations, Jesus wasn't prejudiced. Jesus himself was most likely Black. If you look at the area that he came from and stuff, the stories.
Right. Although in Dolores they say that he was fair and red-haired.
Really?
I'm pretty sure in Jesus and the Scenes they describe him.
That's the first time I've ever heard that.
His teacher described him. I think I told you this, but maybe you don't remember.
I'm old.
Yeah, that he was light blue-eyed, fair-skinned, and had orange hair.
Well, that would be interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But who knows?
Yeah, I don't know. But anyways, I lost track of where I was going with that one.
Well, some other examples that to show, outside of just, let's say, slavery is an obvious one. But this whole issue kind of made me want to read about some other events besides just the civil rights movement in the 60s that we saw, which was in itself amazing. And relatively the protests were peaceful, not the law enforcement.
Yeah.
But I started reading about some other instances that I had never heard about, and wondering to myself why I hadn't heard about them.
Yeah.
And one of them was the Tulsa, Oklahoma race riots of 1921. And I was like, well, that's weird. We've read a lot in history about certain things, and I'd never heard about it.
No.
Well, there was a street in this town, Greenwich or Greenwood district, and it was called Black Wall Street. And it was a very thriving time and kind of a golden era for the Black race in this community, in this town. And they were wealthy. They were doing really well. And so at one point, there's a 19-year-old shoeshine black boy that gets in an elevator, and the operator of the elevator is like a 20-year-old or a 17-year-old white girl. She claimed that he assaulted her in an elevator that was closed that nobody saw. And she did not press charges. She refused to press charges. Mm-hmm. However, an angry mob of white people went down Black Wall Street and burned and rioted about 35 blocks of this town and destroyed these people's livelihoods to the point they could never recover. They were given tents to live in. They chased them out of the district, the county line, where they couldn't get them, essentially, the ones that lived. But about 300 people died in this. And many of these black people that died, they don't even know where they buried them.
It's ridiculous.
So that's something and then when you go into the city hall and try to of this town and try to research the records, the initial report in the newspaper of the girl's claim of the elevator incident is conveniently ripped out of the newspaper scroll. So it doesn't exist. And another thing they pointed out was a lot of these civil rights movements in those times, photographs would be taken. And they would use, white supremacist groups would use these as a marketing tool, and they made them into postcards. And so people would send these to their loved ones from across the country going, look what's going on over here. Yeah. And look what's going on over there. And that's, wow. Yeah. When I heard that, I was like, this is nuts.
Yeah.
And then that drew me to one other story real quick, and that was in 1943, 200 Navy sailors went to East L.A. This is where you hear about Zoot Suit Riot.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Seen a lot of that last couple days.
200 Navy officers get off the ship and go into East L.A. and start beating and thugging anybody wearing zoot suits. And anybody try to stop them, they club them and beat them. They took these guys' zoot suits, threw them in a pile, and set them on fire. And then they put these people in jail. They put the people that were attacked in jail, not the sailors. That then started a spark in Detroit at the same time, where the same thing started happening. Sailors going out and doing this. So these are not once in a blue moon things. These have been happening, and some of them are trying to be erased from history.
Yes.
But for 400 years.
Yeah.
So this is not a once in a blue moon thing.
No, it's absolutely not. You know what? A part of it I was thinking about this is we want to say a lot of it is ignorance. But I'll tell you, and it is, a lot of it is ignorance.
Yeah, it is.
But a lot of it is also how you're brought up, and I'm not justifying anything. But what I'm saying is that, like, for myself, I was very sheltered. I wasn't exposed to anything really of culture so much. I went to private schools. I remember in my grade in private school, we had 2 black kids, 1 boy, 1 girl, and I looked at them the same. And besides the jokes that my mom made, there was never, in my eyes, any difference between them. Mm. So I guess for me, my ignorance comes in the place of I didn't think it was still such a big deal. And that is very ignorant. But it also is just because of what I've been shown and what I've been taught, and that I haven't looked into it to myself. Mm-hmm. So this has kind of changed me, and seeing that it is very, 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 very much still a problem.
Oh, yeah.
And it shouldn't be, and it needs to be dealt with. It needs to be dealt with now. And it's good to see white people out there and protesting right alongside everybody else, showing that we're in support, and that this isn't something that I think for the most part we created it, but we're just kind of trying to breed it out. Mm-hmm. And you still have those. I really want to give credit,
props to Reverend Sharpton for actually acknowledging that.
Yes, he did.
Because that is the way to bridge the gap. Yes. He said, I notice all these white people out there doing this, making a stand for us.
Yes.
And that needs to be reciprocated on the other side.
Yes.
Meaning we need to thank that means an officer, if they ask you to kneel in peace, kneel in peace.
Absolutely.
Don't shove a 70-year-old man backwards to land on his head. Okay, and the man was white.
I can't even go on
what
Facebook.
are we doing?
Yeah.
It's become a free-for-all. So, I really feel like this, it's so much like how art imitates life and life imitates art.
Oh, yes.
And that there's so much, I hate to say, of like the Star Wars concept within this for me.
Yeah.
And that is, there is good and bad.
Yes.
Okay? In everything. You can feel that energy clashing right now, stronger than
so strong.
ever.
Yep.
Okay? You can't see it, but you can feel it. All right?
Yeah.
And I feel like there is not just a movement of superior race attitude amongst probably some of our government as well as other groups, but there is this need for order.
Right.
That they want this complete control of a situation they don't have control of, yet they've allowed it to be created.
Right.
So this is a touchy subject. How do you ignore something like slavery, not teach about it and teach that it's wrong? But when you think about how many people that you were teaching about all these different types of segregation
Yes.
in history, and why?
Right.
Why do we need to repeat all that? We just talk about the movement part of,
Right.
I want to acknowledge it. I want to, because I don't want to ignore it. But like pounding it into people almost in a way where maybe you're subliminally being fed a load of crap.
Oh, yeah. Oh, absolutely. Mm-hmm.
So
This energy that you were talking about, over the last couple of weeks, I've had more people messaging me, asking me if I feel something weird because their energy feels weird. More crying, more anxiety. We had a friend in Washington that messaged me the other day. He said that he has tingling in his back. And of course you come back with, it's just eczema. But we're feeling it.
I know him.
Yeah, exactly. We're feeling it. We're all feeling that this change has to occur. And unfortunately, for change to occur, for the most part, it has to get uncomfortable. Mm-hmm. Change just doesn't happen like that. You have to have a process. You have to go through a process. And that's what we're going through right now. And we can choose whether we're going to let it bring us closer together or we're going to let us push farther apart. And I think we know that it needs to,
it does.
keep moving.
It does. And it's not something like just people are overreacting about. This is, you can see in the sheer numbers of people that are coming out and walking the streets.
Yeah.
You can see this is something that's been boiling.
Yeah.
And boiling. I mean, do we think that because Martin Luther King did that in the 60s that it was resolved? No, Martin Luther King was murdered.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah. Didn't end there.
So it was just another way to stifle the situation.
Yeah.
And it can't be stifled anymore.
Yeah. We live in an area, I don't know how many of our listeners will know about this or even remember it. Well, they might now, but in 1992, we had riots here in Los Angeles for Rodney King beating. Mm-hmm. And the Rodney King, I don't remember too much about it. I was a freshman in high school. And I just remember it canceling my Disneyland trip, and I was bummed. I was so young. I really didn't absorb much of what's happening, but now looking back into the history and seeing what happened at that time, I don't know how much you know about it. If you want to share with our listeners anything, otherwise I can. What happened with Rodney King?
No, go ahead.
Okay, so basically the gist of it is that there was a black man that was beaten severely by, I don't know how many cops it was.
6 or 7, I think.
Yeah, a lot. He survived. Yeah. He actually died a few years back, though.
Yeah.
But he survived. But when the cops went on trial, they were acquitted. Mm-hmm. The trial was actually right here in our town of Simi Valley.
Yeah.
And the rioting was in Los Angeles and I think in Compton and around those areas, if I remember reading that
Yeah,
correctly.
it was like Florence and Normandy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
50 people died in those riots.
Yeah.
Reginald Denny, I think was his name, was one of the men. I can't remember if he died or
He
not.
didn't die, I don't
No,
believe.
he was severely beaten on live TV.
Yeah, it was the one that was most famously seen.
Yeah. They pulled him out. He was a truck driver, pulled him out of his truck in the middle of an intersection and just started beating him
Yeah.
on live TV. It was absolutely horrific. But the images that we've seen over the last 10 days, well, it's been okay for the last couple days, but at the beginning was way worse than anything we've ever seen. The images that I've seen are just mind-blowing.
Yeah.
The things that have happened. It's just sad.
It's hard. It's
Yeah.
hard as a parent, too, and look at your kid and, like, how do we explain this
Yes.
to them? Fortunately for Marina, I feel like she's kind of an old soul, and so she has a better understanding,
Yeah.
I think, of how it should be.
Well, that was something that I asked our listeners is what they're telling their kids, how they're telling them, and how we should handle that situation. But one of the people that I talked to about this, I'm not going to say her name. I told her I would keep it confidential. She is white. Her husband is white, and they have 2 black adopted boys. And so I wanted to hear her take on what's going on.
Yeah, that's cool.
This is what she said. It's scary. It's sad having to talk to a 9 and 10-year-old about white people hating them because they are black and black people hating them because they are white. We raise our boys to not see color, to not discriminate against anyone for any reason. It's hard to do that when things like this happen so publicly. Now, don't get me wrong. We have had to talk to them about the fact that most society sees them as black and they do have to take extra precautions because of it. That is not a talk any parent should have to ever have with their child. Unfortunately, that is the society we live in.
Yep.
Because of the tone of their skin or type of their hair they will be a stereotype, and that is unfair. Those things do not define who we are. My 10-year-old thinks us having the black-white conversation is racist. He doesn't like to label, and just having that type of conversation is wrong. It's hard for him to grasp why we are talking about it so much. He actually walked away last night and said he was done with the conversation. Huh. He went to his room and shut the door. The other doesn't let it get to him as much. He's playing with his friends like normal, with no cares in the world, as he should be. Wow. So,
Well, that's cool. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah, thank you for sharing.
And my hat's off to your 10-year-old because he's wise.
Yeah. It's hard. It's been hard with Marina because, especially right now with not having school and they don't have much to do.
Yeah.
And then they sit around on TikTok, and that's probably the worst thing that they could be doing right now because I've gotten into TikTok through the quarantine. I made one for our dogs because that's what I do. But I watch these videos and I see that there are both sides of it. But of course, at the beginning, they were showing more of the looting. There wasn't as much good going on. Obviously, there was way more looting than there was peaceful protesting going on. But I felt like TikTok was trying to make it very anti-cop, where I've seen it on both sides. I've seen the cops be rough with people, and I've seen people be rough with cops. And I've seen cops protect people, and I've seen people protect the cops. And it's really interesting to see how the dynamic of all of these different things have come together.
Yeah.
But now I think we're moving more towards the stage of we're done with the looting, hopefully. And we'll be I don't know how long these protests are going to go on for, but I think it's great that they're still out there and that they're peaceful about it and they're making their point. Yeah. Because it has to be made. And this is obviously how that has to happen, right, is with this push. And they're listening. They are listening. You can see it. Mm-hmm. Like, how many of the officials here in LA have had their jobs threatened over this, So a lot of them have been forced to listen, even if they, weren't before.
I mean, it's time to open up those records. I mean, I think maybe it was the Reverend that said this, like how many times we get pulled over as civilians and they want to know everything about your background.
Right.
Right? That's why you have a driver's license. It's all in there. Everything's in that strip.
Yep.
So, well, why don't we get to know about these cops' backgrounds?
Right.
Right. So if it's just a matter of good cop, bad cop, well, we find out who the bad cops are, and well, bye-bye.
It is hard because you never really know everything about somebody, and people can hide that. There are ways to hide their racism, and then it comes out like this. But there does need to be stricter regulations, because one of the things that's happening to this generation from them seeing this is they're really not going to trust the police. They're really not going to trust authority. And the thing is that we do need authority. We do need that for our society. We don't need the National Guard here all the time. We can do this ourselves in our communities. But if our kids are going to start turning against the cops because this is what they think of them, this is what they see on TikTok, this is what people are telling them, they're not all bad.
Right. I would say we it's not the authority. We need leadership.
We do.
And you do that by example. I don't know if you remember when I was growing up, the side of police cars used to always say to protect and serve.
Yes.
And notice how they don't say that anymore.
Yeah, at least not here.
I don't. I've watched other episodes of
yeah.
cops and stuff around the country, and I don't see them on the cars.
Yeah.
And it's, I thought that's an interesting statement to A, put on a car,
right,
and then B, to remove.
Right. It's one of those professions that I think is thankless, because we always look at them as the enemy. You know, they pull us over when we're getting a ticket. Right. They this, they that. But how many police officers rushed into the Twin Towers on 9/11? Mm-hmm. How many police officers have given their life for civilians? It does happen. We may not talk about it as much, but like there's an officer in Las Vegas that was out on the strip that was shot in the back of the head. That's not necessary. No. We can't fight with fighting back. We can't. That doesn't work like that. No. You can't shoot a cop because a cop shot a black person or a white person or an Asian or whatever. It's not an eye for an eye. Right. It has to change, and it's never going to change as long as we feel like, well, you did this, so I'm going to do this. And that's where the looting comes in. And a lot of people don't understand that. A lot of people feel like setting fire to other people's things and stealing things that don't belong to you is justified in this situation. Right, like as if everybody deserves it. Like, why would you blame AT&T or Nike store for this? Okay. Right. Yeah, I mean, there's corporation issues and problems within the world, but for the moment, that's not the point. And you know what? That's not even my biggest problem. Like, you want to go into Target and you want to loot it. I'm not justifying it, but it's better than doing it to the mom and pop shops. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of African American people that lost their businesses during these riots. And that's what should not have happened. It shouldn't have happened. It was counterproductive. It sucks. Yeah. You know? And that's what we don't think about. We react. We're too reactionary, you know? This is the beginning for me. And I welcome it. I don't like the chaos. I don't like, the other groups that want to come in and create pandemonium, but I think it's time. And I think we've talked a little bit about this in as far as, in an energy sense. And what does it take for a change to happen? Right. And, it's scientifically proven in a lab that the whole of a group doesn't require the whole of a group for a change to occur. It only requires 1% of a group, a grouping, to make that shift change. So if it was 1% of the world's population to get on this mindset and start thinking in your mind and manifesting and hoping for racism to go away, for world peace to take over, and this fear within our societies about authority or the difference in color and ethnicities, that has to go away. Yeah. And 1%. Right. 1% of 7 billion people is not a lot. It's not. We are doing it. We are changing it. I think one of the reasons why it's so hard for certain people to change on this is because a lot of people don't want to admit that they're wrong. They don't want to admit that what they've believed their whole life or what they've been taught is wrong. This is something that it's very freeing. If you can just admit that this is not right and that your upbringing was wrong and you're not going to repeat it, it's very, very, very freeing.
Yeah.
But it's hard for people to do because people don't want to admit that they're wrong.
Yeah.
Let your guard down and say, I'm wrong, or I was wrong, and I'm going to try and make it better. I'll give you a very strange example of how this works from the other side, because like I said, they do have to work through us. My mom, again, was a little bit on the racist side. She did tell us, my brother and I, that she didn't ever want us to bring anybody of color home. We should not marry outside of our race. Then she passed, and my brother's first girlfriend that he had after the one that he was with when she passed was half African American, but very dark. I mean, I wouldn't have known she was half. That was Mom's way of saying it's okay. You know, Justin's very attracted to African American women, and for him, I think that he's just like, I don't care what she said. This is who I am, and that's good. But she is trying to show him it's okay.
Right.
And that's what they will do for us. They'll put people in our paths that maybe we wouldn't connect with before and say, these are the type of people that you should be connecting with. And it's okay. I'm teaching you from the other side.
Right.
Listen to them. Let them guide you, because they will.
Right.
They really want to undo it.
Yeah, they do.
I really feel that strongly.
And they're a part of that energy.
Yeah.
They're a part of that shift that will help. They don't have to be included in the 1%.
No.
But as long as they see that 1%, then it's on.
Absolutely.
You know, it's going to happen. And this is, like you said, it has to get worse before it gets better.
Right.
And people really, since the 60s, you know, you're only allowed to make share your grievances once every, I don't know how many years it's been since the 60s. I can't do math
60.
that fast. But
60.
60 years? Yeah. So, okay. So you can't tell people they can only express their grievances every 60 years over a problem in society like this.
Yeah, you can't.
You know, it's going to boil over, and it's now happening. That the breaking point happened. And then I was talking to you about this earlier. Then you start looking at like all this geological activities happening.
A lot.
And I honestly feel like it's part of that energy. It's feeding off. It feels our energy. There's a tenseness.
Yes, I think you're right.
And so the earth is trying to find a way to relieve its tension from our tension.
Yes. Yes, energy is one of those weird things that you can get. You have positive energy and you have negative energy. And I had never looked at it as the fact that maybe the earth does work off of our negative energy as well, because there is scientific evidence that if you have two plants and you talk bad to one of them, that plant will die. It's been proven many times. They're emotional. We don't really see that, but they are. So our earth can be too, and our earth feels all this tension, and there's all these earthquakes and stuff happening. And I'll tell you what, from a psychic standpoint, just 2020, we just need to kind of let what's going to happen and look at it as the year of change, because I don't think it's going to get better anytime soon. Right. I'm not saying it's going to get a lot worse. I just feel like people need to understand that the things that are happening this year are pushing us into a new...
They need to happen.
Yes, they need to happen.
I mean, I feel sad that George Floyd, sorry. That George Floyd had to lose his life for this. But it was necessary for the change to happen. Yes. He brought the change.
Something that has happened, the more and more that I build my abilities, when I see somebody, and like George, who's passed, first I instantly know if the person's passed or alive at this point. I can feel the difference in the energy. Right. If I'm focusing on them without even really realizing that I'm focusing, I can bring their spirit in. Like just crying over him, I can bring his spirit in. I can feel him. And Chelsea did the same thing. Chelsea has this waterfall that she goes to, and it helps kind of clear her mind.
Don't go chase a waterfall.
But she felt him, and we hadn't compared those stories yet. She told me, and we compared them then. But we both feel very much that he understands that this had to happen in a way. He had to be the martyr. He is in a way, please don't take this the wrong way, but he is in a way like Jesus, because Jesus died for a point. He died to get, his message didn't really get out the way he wanted it to.
Right.
I don't feel like he wanted us to all know that we were the Son of God. But if you look at George, you see that George, the lesson that we'll take from him is that Black lives matter, and we are all one, and we need to start working as one. Yep. And he gave his life. There's many African Americans that have given their life and that have been treated wrongly. And that doesn't mean that his death is any more important than any of the other ones.
No.
It was just the straw that broke the camel's back, and it was what started the biggest civil rights movement that we'll probably ever see. So he is, in fact, a martyr. And he's okay with that. And so we should be okay with that and say, we're going to let him change this.
No, thank you, George.
Yes.
Thank you. I mean, I'm sorry, but thank you.
Yes.
And I think if we go thousands of years back to what Christ was saying, was even in the smaller messages, was love your brother. He didn't say anything about unless he's black or Hispanic or Asian. There was no other comment. It's just love your brother.
Yeah.
Love thy neighbor.
Yeah.
You know, this poop has to stop.
We're always going to have people that we're attracted to as friends, even in like coworker situations, that we're naturally drawn to. But most of those things are inside. Those are things that, we have in common that we attract from the other side. And this is where we need to, with people that look at this as a color in that aspect, is to just drop that and just, that's not a part of a person's personality. It's not.
No.
It's just a color. That's it. That's all it is. And once you start looking at people like that, you see everything very differently.
Right.
This experience, it's another one of those things that I feel like if it would have happened 20 years ago, I would be an absolute basket case. But I understand it now. I understand why it's happening and how we can work to change it, and it is changeable. And we can do it. We can make a change. It doesn't have to be like this.
Yeah, and people might feel like judging and profiling is empowering to themselves, but you know what? You're doing yourself a lot of damage.
Oh, yeah.
Whether the person that you're doing it to knows it or not, you're doing yourself a lot of damage.
Right.
The amount of energy that, you know what I mean? You're exuding, a negative energy that you're exuding there.
Yes.
You're just doing damage to yourself.
That's right.
So.
That's absolutely right.
I think that there was something I was going to say, I totally forgot, but it's an amazing time, and never saw it coming.
No.
I mean, I guess in some way I did, but I didn't know I would be alive for this.
I think we all, like with everything that's happened, we're like, this isn't going to happen in our lifetime, or this isn't going to happen. And I'm like, well, here's me thinking that aliens weren't going to happen. And like the government wasn't going to talk about aliens in our lifetime. But you know what? That's probably, we've already said that they're real. Right. These things, they have to happen in a certain timeline. And one of the things about like reincarnation, when we choose to come back here, is we get to pick when we come back. And the great part about that is for people like us that are light workers that came back here to be here during this time to help. This is our time to help. And you know who you are, because you're probably listening right now. If you're listening, there's a pretty good chance that you're one of these people that we're reaching out to that help us. Help us to spread the peace and the love and to make a change finally, because it needs to happen. Yeah,
stop with the judging and the profiling, even if you're not a police officer. If you want to look at some of the most heinous criminals and crimes that have been committed in our country, most serial killers are white.
I'm pretty sure they all are.
Anybody that's ever made an attempt on a president's life, I don't believe was of any ethnic background.
Yeah.
Terrorism in our country is usually white.
It's usually domestic, too.
So, yeah.
Even like the 9/11 guys, they lived here.
If we want to point fingers, then we got to point fingers at everybody.
That's exactly right.
Or if we want to forgive, we got to forgive everybody.
we're not saying to love everybody, because there are some people that are just not going to be lovable. You know, they're white people, black, Asian, whatever their color is. Judge them on the type of person that they are, how they treat other people, how they treat you, how they make you feel about yourself, no matter what color, age, sex.
And if they're not your type of person, then go somewhere else.
Exactly. There are plenty of people in this world. That's one of the biggest things I think that we need to learn is live and let live. Just mind your business, you know?
Yeah.
It's just, I don't know. It's such a simple concept. Let us live the way we want to live, as long as we're not hurting anybody. And same with them. As long as nobody else is, if you're not hurting somebody, you're living your life for you, live it. Don't care what other people think, you know?
No, but when this change occurs, then, you know, there'll be so many more opportunities for everybody.
Yep.
But it's going to take time, and I couldn't even tell you how long, but it's going to take a while. It's going to take a lot of work and a lot of heartbreak.
Yeah.
But it's going to happen. It is going to happen. This world will see peace.
Right. It will. When we may have to take it race by race.
We may have to.
Yeah.
But I guarantee that as the creator wouldn't have created this to just watch us all destroy it.
No,
and each
absolutely not.
Not going to happen.
Nope. Absolutely not.
And does that mean he's going to come out of the clouds and just put a giant foot down in front of everybody?
No.
I don't think so. He's waiting for us to act like we are extensions of him.
Right.
And start treating each other right.
He needs to stick his spiritual foot up our spiritual bums.
Try to look at the soul.
Yes.
Not
Thank you.
the body.
Yep.
And you can feel a soul. You can see it. Even if you can't literally see it with your eyes, you can see it with your heart.
And you know what? There are people, like, we don't know anything about Derek and really his mental status. I believe that he was in the armed forces. But there are people that they have anger issues. And they have to get their anger issues out. Find another way to do it. Taking it out on innocent people like what Derek did. Because you can see how angry he was. Who he was angry with, I don't know. Was he angry that this was a black man that tried to pay with a counterfeit bill? I don't know. But he had a lot of anger build up in him. And,
he did.
And you have to get it out other ways. Talk about it. See a therapist. There's new things nowadays. They have these places where you can pay to beat the crap out of, like, glass bottles and furniture and stuff. Find other ways to take your anger out than on somebody else, because as soon as we can start doing that and understanding that we're all individual people and respecting in our individual needs and boundaries, it will really help.
And I think we could get to a higher place where we don't even need to do that, like to bash things to get it out.
Yeah.
We'll get to a higher place where that we'll recognize that we have anger, but it won't rule us like it does.
No.
It will figure it out, I think.
Yeah. You know, we can't go back and change the past. We can't change what our great-great-grandparents did. We can't. All we can do is move on from it. So the best thing we can do, which will be very difficult, but would be the best, is to just say, from here on, we're going to move on. We're going to be one race, you know, and let the past be. But we know that not everybody can do that.
No.
But the more people that can do that, that can just say, we're not our ancestors. We may be fighting our ancestors' battles, but we can put an end to them, but we're not them.
No.
The better we'll be.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
We'll get there.
Yeah, we will.
One day at a time, folks.
We will. We'll get there. It's going to be okay. This has been the most wild year, and I feel like I'm constantly trying to say it's going to be okay, but it is.
Yeah.
Because we will come out of this stronger in a lot of different ways. A lot of different ways.
We will.
Yeah.
It'll be amazing.
Yeah.
And it's hard to even see that light at the end of the tunnel, but it's there.
It is.
I can barely see it, but I can feel like, it's like I can almost feel it more than I can see it, but...
Yeah, just like I said, just know that whatever else happens in this year, it's what's meant to happen so that our planet and the United States especially can just move in a direction that we need to move in. We really need to...
The world, too.
Yes.
You know,
well, yes, but
the world.
Right now with these riots being based in the United States, I think that our people here definitely need to know that there will be peace.
Yes.
So
There will.
Just give it time.
Yeah.
It'll happen.
Right on.
Yeah.
That's
Sorry if you heard me blow my nose 5 times. I'm holding the last one until we're done.
It's all right. It makes it a little more real.
It's very real. I'm very glad that we don't have a webcam.
Yeah, me too.
Because that wouldn't be pretty at all. It allows me to cry and pretend I'm not, but you can hear.
Yeah.
That I
That's
am.
Okay.
I'm human, and this
Emotions
has been very,
are good,
very
man.
hard. Yeah, this has been a very, very rough couple months, but the last 10 days have been very emotional, and tomorrow we're having a large protest here in our town, and it's not
A little high
Yeah.
high anxiety in the area, I think. About
yeah
it.
because we were the
Right.
location of the Rodney King trial, and there have been threats, and then of course our mayor goes and says something stupid,
Yeah.
and so now we are high tension here.
Right.
But I think it's gonna be okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just know, Velocity Chatter Joneses, we're down with the movement, so we're cool.
We are. Absolutely. We don't care what color you are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
We just care that you're a nice person.
yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, that was a good one. Thanks, babe. I know it's
Yeah,
hard, but
thank you.
it was good.
Yeah, it was good.
And I hope, somebody out there heard something that felt good that they needed to, and just remember, hope is great, but faith is way more powerful. So,
One of our listeners asked, she said that she felt like she was being selfish by thinking about protecting her family during this. And that's not selfish.
No.
It's not, because we do need to protect our families. Don't feel like you have to go out there and fight on the front lines. If you want to do something to make a change, you can do so many different things. Like for us, this is a one way we hope to make change.
Yeah.
It's a big way, but you don't even have to be that big.
you could just pray about it, meditate about it.
Yeah. Sign a petition
Yeah.
or whatever, but be a part of it.
Yeah.
Be a part of the
If you know
solution.
somebody that's, African American or ethnic, reach out to them.
Yeah.
Let them know, man, you know what? On a personal level,
Yeah.
I might be white, but I love you just the same.
And I fight right there with you.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, it's all good.
Yeah, it is.
It's going to get good.
Yeah.
Well, before we say goodbye and before you use that whole roll of toilet paper up,
Almost.
do you want to share your page?
Sure. You can find everything that you need to know on my website at SamanthaJonesPsychicMedium.com.
Awesome.
And you, sir.
Yes, djonesartcollection.com, at djonesartcollection for Facebook and Instagram, and gypsybrown.com for the band, at Gypsy Brown Music, Instagram, and at Gypsy Brown Band for Facebook. We just had a guitar session last night, got drums done on about 4 songs. So probably about a month, I'm hoping we'll release our first song.
Okay, I'm so excited.
I am too. It's sounding good. It's feeling good.
Yeah, it is.
The energy is wonderful. It's nice to have them back in the room, all of us together.
And you know
and
what?
making
This is what the world needs.
Yeah.
It needs new music. It
Yeah.
needs new things to push forward. And your music, you guys are so like uplifting and upbeat. I mean, it's just,
Right.
especially for me, like that's my genre of music. But it's a great time. I think it's what this world needs.
I agree.
Yeah.
And we'll be sharing it on the podcast
Can't wait.
when we release it. We'll share it on up here and probably a couple other places once we get them up there.
Yeah.
I'll announce all that.
Yay.
So, yay. Hooray.
Hooray.
Well, we hope you guys had a good week and got something out of this.
Yep.
And we hope you have a wonderful week coming up.
Hope it'll be a peaceful one.
Yes.
And we will reconvene next week.
Exactly. And until then,
Peace and love.